What if I told you that a group of hockey misfits at 500 to 1 odds would come 3 wins shy of shocking the world? That a team would help heal a grieving city? That a no-name player would score 43 goals? That's just a piece of the inaugural season of the Las Vegas Golden Knights. What most people don't realize is that there was hockey in Las Vegas before the Golden Knights. The Las Vegas Wranglers were a minor league team that existed from 2003 to 2014 when they lost their home arena. One of the current Golden Knights players, Derek Engelland, actually played on this team for a couple of years. But there was actually NHL hockey in Vegas before the Wranglers. In 1991, the NHL had an outdoor preseason game between the Los Angeles Kings and the New York Rangers. The Kings and Avalanche also had an annual preseason series in the 1990s. It wasn't until 2009, however, that the foundation of the Las Vegas franchise emerged. At first, it was rumored the Phoenix Coyotes might relocate to Vegas. Due to the lack of arena in the city, this never materialized, and Vegas was left without an NHL franchise. In 2014, plans for an arena on the Las Vegas Strip emerged. Its primary user was the MMA, but it sparked the NHL's interest. In November 2014, a leak suggested the NHL had picked billionaire Bill Foley as a primary owner for the new NHL franchise. While the NHL denied this claim, various rumors emerged about a new NHL franchise. Vegas wasn't the only city rumored to be getting a franchise at the time either. Both Hartford and Quebec City were locations that were supposedly being scouted. At the end of 2014, NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman decided to let Bill Foley hold a season ticket drive in Las Vegas to gauge the market. The goal was 10,000 deposits, and it was reached in only 4 months. But still, the NHL dampened the hype and told the media it was just a market test and had limited implications. But with plans for a new arena and around 13,000 season ticket deposits, Vegas was well on its way to its first professional sports franchise. In mid-2015, the NHL allowed bids for a new expansion team. They received 2 bids, one from Bill Foley for a Las Vegas team and another for Quebec City from a Canadian communications company. Both moved into Phase 3 and were voted on by the league owners. Quebec City was denied, but Vegas was unanimously accepted. Foley committed to paying the $500 million expansion fee, and Las Vegas had their first ever professional sports franchise. In 2017-18 would be their inaugural season. In the coming years, the Golden Knights was selected as the team name, and Bill Foley began hiring personnel. He named George McPhee, former Washington Capital, as the new general manager, and in April 2017, he named Jared Gallant as the head coach. With the staff hired, a shiny new arena, and an amped-up fan base, the Las Vegas Golden Knights prepared for the NHL expansion draft. As the expansion draft rapidly approached, franchises from across the league began protecting their star players and making war room deals with the Vegas front office on players who could not be protected but would be verbally agreed to be off limits. Vegas had 3 players on the roster, prospects Reed Duke and Thomas Hyka, who were not ready to play in the NHL. They also had Russian star Vadim Shipov. Fortunately, Vegas were set to enjoy the best expansion draft to date in league history. While not every team had a marquee name primed to depart, the lesser teams were still at risk of losing quality players. In a statement to the league's balance in recent years, the crown jewel on the unprotected list, Pittsburgh Penguins goaltending hero Marc-Andre Fleury. The veteran fell victim to playing on a dynasty of a franchise and was sure to join the new Vegas franchise as the face of the team. The front office, however, brought a different approach on draft day. Instead of simply picking the best available player from each team, many of whom had unfavorable contracts on a management perspective, General George McPhee selected what many viewed as indifferent or below-average players who he felt would mesh well, but could easily be replaced if things didn't pan out. Names such as Swedish youngster William Karlsson or Washington Capitals defenseman Nate Schmidt. Not only was this a chance to freely take away players, this was a chance to take advantage of fellow teams desperate to keep players. Vegas completed 10 trades on draft day and managed to acquire numerous draft picks for the future. As the roster was built, Vegas prepared for the first season of Major League Hockey. The night's opener was against Dallas. After a bad start, they found themselves down a goal after 2 periods. They never gave up and scored 2 late goals to win. This first win of the season was a strong indicator of how the rest of the season was going to pan out. The Knights then went back to Vegas, where they would play their first ever home game against the Phoenix Coyotes. They would come out of it with a 5-2 victory. Early on in the season, injuries at the goalie position created issues. Vegas would start 4 separate goalies in their first 11 games. This never slowed down the Knights, and the team went 8-3 over this span. Eventually, their star goalie, Marc-Andre Fleury, got healthy and they were back on track. The Vegas Knights faced harsh criticism being a new franchise, and many wondered if their strong start to the season was just luck. The Knights hushed all doubters by January, though, posting one of the best records in the league. Throughout the rest of the season, the Knights never lost more than 3 games in a row and were becoming a true powerhouse. This was large in part because of the coaching by Gerard Gallant, who was widely renowned for being a player's coach. By the end of the regular season, the team had won 51 games, which put them in first in the Pacific Division. This was no easy task, as the Pacific Division was one of the best in the league. The biggest underdog in NHL history was heading to the playoffs with home ice advantage. After finishing the season first in the Pacific Division, the Las Vegas Golden Knights were headed into their first postseason in franchise history. On April 11th, the Knights had won their first playoff victory as a professional organization over the Los Angeles Kings, 1-0. 6 days after that victory, they won their first ever playoff series over the Kings, beating them 4-0 in the series. As the series had concluded, the Knights were looking stronger than ever and had gained a lot of momentum. Las Vegas then proceeded to play the San Jose Sharks in the second round of the playoffs. This series was much more competitive than the previous encounter, and the Sharks would win 2 games. However, they were no match for the Knights, who would go on to win the series 4-2. With 2 teams out of the way, the Knights were looking like the early favorites to win the Stanley Cup, which no team has ever done in the first year of their existence. Heading into their first ever Western Conference Finals against the Winnipeg Jets, Las Vegas was ready to roll. Although the Jets had won the hottest teams during the regular season, they were also no match for the Golden Knights. The Knights got rid of the Jets in a hurry, only allowing them to win 1 game out of the series. Despite all the doubts before the season started, the Las Vegas Golden Knights were heading to the Stanley Cup Finals to face the Washington Capitals. Only 2 other teams have accomplished going to the Stanley Cup Final in their opening season: the Toronto Arenas in 1918 and the St. Louis Blues in 1968. And now, the Golden Knights were once again making history. With the 2 teams getting ready to play, it was fair to say the Capitals were the favorites to win the series due to their experience and talent they had on their roster. Las Vegas put up their best fight in the matchup, but sadly it wasn't enough as they lost the series 4-1. They might have lost the Stanley Cup, but there was a lot to be proud of. No one ever believed that this group of guys, who were all just randomly put together, could make it to the Stanley Cup and possibly even win. No one thought they would even make the playoffs, but there they were, 3 wins shy of making history yet again. The Golden Knights kept proving everyone wrong, which is why so many people started rooting for them as they got further and further into the playoffs. Las Vegas experienced a lot during their first year as a member of the NHL. They helped the city early in their season with the horrific mass shooting that took place. In honor of the victims, they retired jersey number 58, representing the 58 people who lost their lives. Hometown hero Derek Engelland also had a tear-jerking speech speaking about how much that this team meant for the city early during one of their games. They had one of the best storylines in hockey, with William Karlsson scoring 48 goals after only a 6-goal season the previous year. This is a team who proved they could not only win in the regular season, but also in the postseason. Before their inaugural season, General Manager George McPhee stated the goal was to reach the playoffs after 2 years. The Knights not only made the playoffs, but only came 3 wins shy of winning it all. While the ending wasn't quite picture perfect, no one can say that Las Vegas Golden Knights season was a failure.